feel like that midfield when it was like me and Kira and you.
We were so good.
Like, it was fun, wasn't it? Like I feel like we complemented each other quite nicely. So it was so nice to play with someone that was just offer something and used to score all the time. I'd say. I feel like when you were at
Thank you.
Your stats were decent.
Well, you guys just kept crossing it to me and I would just get my noggin on there and head it in. But we had such a great group. It was so much fun. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Friendlies. Today, I am so excited to be catching up with an old friend, one who happens to be one of the top women's football players in the world. She's a former Women's Super League star, currently the all-time leading goal scorer for Real Madrid, where she plays as one of Europe's most versatile, intuitive, and creative midfielders. It's no wonder this past year she became the first Scottish woman to ever be nominated for the Ballon d'Or. It's Caroline Weir. Kaz, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I love your podcast. I'm so happy we can make this work.
Oh my gosh, I'm so honored. Thank you so much for doing this. This episode of Friendlies is brought to you by Verizon, a proud supporter of the global game and the players who inspire us on and off the pitch. As an official sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 2026, Verizon is honored to help share the stories of the world's top players, including the incredible women who are changing the game at every level. Stay tuned for more on how Verizon can get you connected to the game we love. Just to set the scene a little bit, you and I met and played together at Man City in 2020 and 2021. And so after you spent years in the Manchester weather, I like to imagine that now you're just enjoying the sun in Madrid. How is the weather in Spain?
It is actually amazing. It makes such a difference. Like, I feel like I'm a little bit used to it now. Probably take it a little bit for granted. Like, we're in Spain now. We trained this morning and it was a little bit chilly. Like, I had an Under Armour on and everyone was like, Kaz, like, it's not cold. And I was like, guys, well, I live in Spain now. It is actually a little bit chilly for me. So yeah, times have changed since living in Manchester, the grey days, like, all about that, and just not seeing blue sky for weeks.
I know.
It's very different, but I do love it. Like, it's a totally different vibe. And I must say, like, it's a happier life in terms of the weather and stuff. Like, it does make a difference.
It makes me so happy for you that that's the life you're living and the football that you're playing in the sun. It makes me so happy to think of you there. I know that you're in camp with your Scottish national team right now in Spain. Are all the girls like asking you for tips? Are you speaking Spanish for them?
Well, do you know what? I did get asked to translate for the chef the other day, and it was actually really embarrassing. He wanted just omelette, like Spanish omelette, and I was like, I know this one. It's obviously tortilla. But I was like, Espanol omelette, and it's tortilla, and I got it wrong, and it was really embarrassing. And I was like, that is not painting me in the best light with my Spanish. But yeah, the Spanish is coming along, but it's
okay.
It's difficult. I understand a lot, but speaking is tough.
It's really hard. Well, I hope it continues to go well. Obviously, you're crushing it. Before we get to your life in Spain, I do want to backtrack a little bit to your time in Scotland where you were born. The Scottish FA recently made a documentary about you. And right from the jump, you're in your car driving the documentary crew and like talking and being interviewed on camera. And I was wondering if that moment was stressful. Like, what if you had to parallel park or do something? Like, were you good driving and being interviewed at the same time?
Honestly, not great. I think you'd have to ask like the passengers. But you're right. Like, you always see in the documentaries, they're driving and they look really cute.
I know.
It's all chill. I'm sorry, but it is a little bit stressful. I mean, and also there was a few times we took the wrong turns. Like, obviously that just doesn't make it on camera. Like, and especially driving in Madrid is pretty intense, I must say. So if it came across cam, I'm happy about that. But it wasn't the whole time. No, it was tough.
You came across very calm. Something I really loved about the documentary, it's called Galactica. It starts off with your family in your home. You grew up in Dunfermline. How was that?
Not bad. Dunfermline.
All right, I'm going to leave it to you. It's just a little bit north of Edinburgh. And you have said that everything was football from the time that you were really little. I know your dad was so encouraging of you and your siblings playing. Can you talk to us a little bit about how your dad helped all of you get into football?
He was so good at finding like teams for us to join, and like he took us everywhere, and he loves football. So for him, the fact that 3 out of his 4 children had chosen football to play, he was buzzing. It wasn't swimming or any other sport. Like that was his sport, so he was really happy with that. So he was just so accommodating. Like he would just take us everywhere and really encourage us, but at the same time wasn't like, too pushy or anything. He just
Mm-hmm.
wanted us to enjoy it, have fun. Our childhood, for me and one sister and my brother, was very football orientated, and he'd spend every Saturday morning standing at the side of the pitch for 3 hours watching us at different age groups, and then we go and watch our local team play.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just, yeah, like everything was football, and that's kind of what I think of when I think back to being a child.
Were you competitive with your siblings?
Really, really competitive. Like my dad had like those old fashioned cameras. He used to video a lot
Uh-huh.
of things, birthdays, Christmases, and a lot in the summer playing in the garden. And there's so many arguments on film that that have made it. And we used, because we would get one ball each because we didn't share, so we would have to have a football each. We'd steal each other's, kick it over the wall. There's actually a clip in the documentary, and someone's like, that's so sweet, like you and your sister playing, but it's got no sound, and it's
Yeah.
actually calling each other names, like actually quite rude names, but nobody knows that. So yeah, we were so competitive. I think, like, it's like with your sister as well, Sam, like having
Mm-hmm.
siblings, like that's your first competition, and
Yeah.
you just want to be better than them. So yeah, we were definitely like that.
I know. I have always said that I think like my earliest days playing with Christy shaped my competitiveness so much. It's like
Yeah.
why I am constantly like measuring what I'm doing up against other people is because she's older. So she was always better. And it always made me be like, oh, well, I have to do even more to like catch up.
It's so true. The same. The sister that played was older, and she was always bigger, stronger, and
Mm-hmm.
she was always better. And I was 3 years behind, and then my brother was only 2 years younger. It was quite quick that he was then better because he became stronger and stuff. So I was always just catching them both up, and I do think that shapes your competitiveness, like from such a young age.
Totally. I mean, so clearly we both had older sisters to kind of look up to. I guess I'm also curious in Scotland at the time. I know from the documentary that you really idolized Zinedine Zidane. He was like a hero of yours. Did you have any women that you looked up to as footballers? Did you have any idea that you could go on to do what you've done now?
Not really, no. I didn't really have loads of female footballing role models. The only thing I remember is when I hit my teens, like 15, 16, there would be one game on the TV in Scotland. It would be the FA Cup final, and it was usually Arsenal that were in it. So do remember the odd game, like once a year, I would watch that era of like Kelly Smith and Alex Scott and Rachel
Mm-hmm.
Yankee. So that would be the only kind of players that I would know about. And then I knew a little bit about Julie Fleeting, who's like a Scotland player back in the day. It was hard. I didn't see much of them. So, it was one game a year, the FA Cup final,
Mm-hmm.
BBC One, and then that was about it. Unless obviously I did go to a few Scotland national team games. But yeah, there wasn't loads, to be honest, especially none from my hometown, nothing like that.
Yeah. Well, I feel like this will be kind of a central theme of today is like thinking back on your time as a child and the role models that you kind of had, and now thinking about where you are now and kind of the legacy you're leaving and the example that you're setting for kids in Scotland. Before we leave the documentary, I do just want to say, if people haven't watched it yet, I just watched it here in America on YouTube. It was so awesome, so I highly recommend it. Kaz, I know that when you were young, you did have to play on some boys' teams to get experience. It does sound like you were running circles around them. You scored every game. You soon moved your way up, obviously. And then in 2013, you left Scotland to play for Arsenal. I'm wondering if this was the time you realized that you would have to leave home in order to get the kind of opportunities that you were so clearly ready for.
Yeah, that was a big decision. At the time, I literally just was about to leave high school, turned 18, and it was the only way I thought I was going to make it as a professional player. There was always the chat actually of through high school was maybe getting a scholarship to the US, and that was kind of another avenue. And for example, Claire Emsley went that way, and she did really well, and she loved her time at university. But for me, when Arsenal was interested, it was kind of a no-brainer. I knew it was like going to be difficult and everything, but I thought this is what I've always wanted. Like I have to go, I have to try at least and see how it goes. Yeah, I haven't really looked back. It was obviously a tough time. Kind of talk about it in the documentary about missing home and having like imposter syndrome and not thinking I was good enough to be there, and playing with all these big players, but I wouldn't have changed any of it because I learned so much along the way. And I do think then that shaped me into what came afterwards, and it really helped me move on and become a little bit more resilient, a little bit more tough, to kind of pave my way through the professional football scene that I hadn't experienced before that.
Yeah, well, it's so refreshing to kind of hear you speak about that, moving away from home, and it wasn't smooth sailing the whole time. I mean, you actually did end up moving around from club to club. You actually played at 4 clubs in 5 years, but I think what I really appreciate hearing is how you look back on that time, not as one that kind of tore you down and made you doubt yourself, but is something that made you stronger. I'm curious, until you ended up at Man City, where you and I met, and we'll talk about some memories from that time in a second. How did you stay positive then? And how did you keep your spirits high? You're away from home, you're moving around from club to club. Like, what kept you going in those moments and kept you committed to trying to reach your potential as a footballer?
There was a couple of things. I think one thing was I had really supportive parents at home, and I would FaceTime them and be like, I'm not sure I could do this, blah, blah, blah. And they would always be like, well, you can always come home. It's not the end of the world. You can come home. That's always an option. And as soon as he said that, that was a comfort, but I was like, I can't do that. Like, I don't want to. But it was also a nice reassurance thing. Worst comes to worst, I can go back to Scotland. That's fine. And the thing is, at Arsenal, for example, I loved training. I loved training. I didn't play as much as maybe I wanted to, but looking back, like, young players don't play, in good teams sometimes, like, that's just the way it is. It's a tough lesson to learn. And I see it now with younger players. Like, it's really difficult to break into teams. So obviously at the time I didn't quite realize that. You don't see it from that perspective. But, of course I didn't play ahead of some of these players. So what I did like is training, and I did feel like I was getting better surrounded by all these players in training every single day. Like, I did play with Kelly Smith, Alex Scott, Rachel Yankee, Jordan
Oh,
Nobbs.
wow. All
So
the players you named that you were looking up
yeah.
to as a kid.
Yeah, so it was really weird actually. And also at the time, like, as a person, I was really quiet as well. Like, I was so shy going into that environment. And I remember when I moved on from Arsenal, I was like, I can't be that shy again when I move to a new team. Like, I need to give a little bit more, be a little bit
Yeah.
more myself, be a little bit more confident, not even on the pitch, but off the pitch. So I remember doing that, like making a conscious effort to do that at my next team, which was Bristol. And that really helped as well. I definitely wouldn't change any of it, even though it was a bit tough at the time. But yeah, I learned so much. I think as well, like, I'd come from like Scotland, a small town, and quite a sheltered kind of bubble,
Yeah.
family bubble. And then I was put in London by myself pretty much, and I just had to grow up, and I think I found that a
Yeah.
little bit harder than I thought I would maybe.
I know. It's interesting to hear you say that. Around the same time, the time I went to university, I, from a small town, moved to LA and went to UCLA.
Yeah.
And I do think, my soccer had its ups and downs, but I feel like off the field, I had so much growing to do as well. I made like so many stupid decisions, and thankfully had like a great support around me that enabled me to continue to like grow and focus on soccer. But it's such a pivotal time to get challenged. And you do look back on those years and you say, thank God I put myself kind of outside of my comfort zone and grew.
100%.
Up next is Man City. I feel like this is a huge turning point for you, that you were such a dominant force from your very first season there. You won the FIFA Puskas Award, which is the award for the most beautiful goal. You were nominated for the same award the next year. And when I think back on my arrival at Man City and playing with you, I was so overwhelmed by how technical you were, how hard it was to get the ball off of you. I remember we had a great midfield group. I'll name some of those players in a second, but like all the midfielders would be up against each other in the possession drills, and I could never steal the ball from you or Kira. So it was like playing defense. I'm talking about Kira Walsh. Playing defense was so miserable because you would just get exhausted. You would never get the ball back as a midfielder on that team. My favorite memory of playing with you at Man City was the chip you scored against Manchester United in the derby. It was so special to be a part of like a Manchester derby and then to see a goal like that. And I think what most people like know about you is that you're able to score these goals, these beautiful goals in really heightened moments on big occasions. And I'm wondering if you see yourself that way and maybe what you credit that ability to.
I mean, firstly, thanks, Sam. I feel like you're so complimentary because it's funny you say you couldn't get the ball off of us, but I feel like I could not get close to you. Like I've never played with a player who physically was so dominant but also technically good. And I feel like when you came to City, you offered something completely different to what we'd ever had. And I feel like that midfield when it was like me and Kira and
Oh,
you,
we were
it
so
was like
good.
it was fun, wasn't it? Like I feel like we complemented each other quite nicely. So nice to play with someone that was just offer something and used to score all the time at City. I feel like when you were at City, you did
Thank
score
you.
a lot. Your stats were decent.
Well, you guys just kept crossing it to me and I would just get my noggin on there and head it in. But we had such a great group. It was so much fun. I am gonna put you back on the spot though and kind of like ask again if you see yourself as a player who scores in big moments.
Yeah, well, do you know, like, I think for me, I love special moments in football, and I think growing up, like, I appreciate when I was, like, for example, watch Zidane or some of those hot players, like the little moments that they'll come out with in matches, whether that's a goal or like a skill, and you just be like, that is sick, like that technical
Yeah.
ability. I just really appreciate that, and so it's funny, like my career is probably made up of moments in a way, like goals or I would like to win more things, but I think looking back at the moment, it is probably those certain goals that people will think of when they think of me. Yeah, like I'm not gonna lie, like I love those moments and trying to create them. Is I guess it's not something I consciously think of like before a game or anything like that, but I love like being technical and growing
Yeah.
up that was the focus. Like physically, I was always told I wasn't quite there and I had to work on that stuff, but the technical stuff was that was where I put a lot of focus. So yeah, it's been nice that I've been able to come up with a couple of cool moments, I guess.
Oh my gosh. I like have chills thinking about that goal still. It was so incredible. I also think that like left-footed players, at least the ones I've been like close to in my life, you, Rose Lavelle, my sister is left-footed. I feel like you just have this particular flair that us righties are just like unable to find. And I'm wondering if you think being left-footed has helped to like define you as a player. Like, is that a quality of yours that's important to you?
Probably, I think it has helped me. I think especially being a midfielder or like a number 10, there's not as many of us, I don't think, that play in that position. I mean, I started off as a left winger, like back in the day, because I had a left foot, not because I had any pace, because we all know that's not true. So yeah, and then obviously as I've kind of got got older, I moved more central. So yeah, being a lefty and the whole technique thing, I think is probably played to my advantage.
Sorry, Kaz, I got distracted because there sounds like there's maybe somebody talking behind you.
Sorry. Yeah, we might have to move, Sam. Sorry,
Okay. No, no, no. Don't be sorry.
we're just literally gonna go next door.
Okay. Okay. So in 2022, you decided to leave Man City and the WSL for Liga F and Real Madrid. After you spent, a lot of your early career trying to find a club that felt like home, why did you decide at this point to make such a big jump and go somewhere so different?
Yeah, it was actually a really tough decision because you know how happy I was at Man City. Really did feel like home for the first time. I met Josh there. We had our dog. Well, we have a dog,
Yeah.
and it was just really nice. And a lot of my friends were in the northwest, so there was just a part of me that was like, I just need a new challenge, and I don't like feeling too comfortable. And to be fair at City, like I never felt comfortable in terms of playing because there was always competition to get in the team.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't comfortable in that sense, but I just thought maybe I needed a new challenge, and there was always a part of me that maybe wanted to go abroad and experience a different league, a new culture. And yeah, Real Madrid was the decision that I made. Here we are, 3.5 years in, which is crazy. I can't believe it's been that long.
I know. Well, you made a splash right away. I mean, sometimes it takes players a minute to like adjust to a new team or a new league. You scored 19 goals in your first season. You helped them progress to the next phase of the Champions League. You won their version of Player of the Year. And so making this jump was clearly paying off. Did you find that the culture and like the football culture was very different to your experiences in Scotland and England?
Yeah, it was really different. I think also being at City, like how City was it was quite structured in how we played,
Mm-hmm.
which worked well for me as well to an extent. And then I went to Madrid, and the manager was just like, yeah, you kind of have freedom to play what you see, and you can go to that side of the pitch if you want, and you can receive the ball like that. And I was like, okay, so it took me a minute to adjust, I think, but that league and my teammates, there's such an emphasis on technique and keeping the ball, less so on maybe like, defend it. Like there's so many transitions I feel like in our league. But yeah, that first season, it was a bit of a blur to be honest, because I didn't understand much that was going on. I just like went with it. It was crazy. Everything was so new. Like adjusting to like even just the weather and stuff. It was a blur basically, but it was fun and the stats were decent, and yeah, it was a good first season.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, decent. They were incredible. This section is not as fun. In 2023, you're kind of coming into this new era of your career. You got an ACL injury. It would keep you off the field for over a year. We talk a lot about injury in general on the show. Obviously, I had to retire due to injury. And I think one of the hardest parts for me was always feeling isolated from the team. And I imagine for you that being further away from home didn't help. So what do you remember as the hardest thing for you to accept when you were told you tore your ACL?
Well, at first, like, I really couldn't believe that it happened. And I felt like, and I actually listened to, was it maybe Leah Williamson talking about this not so long ago? And you just put so much trust in your body, and your body does so amazing, like, such amazing things for you for so many years, And it was the first time that I was like, no, it, like, I'd been injured, and I was like, it can't be. Like, I just don't think that was going to happen. But obviously it did, and obviously, unfortunately, it is so common. So I was just a bit surprised at first. Like, I didn't really believe it. But then it does kick in quite fast, especially once you have the operation. You're like, oh, this is
Yeah.
quite serious. And in fact, I didn't actually realize how serious it was, which sounds a bit silly, but I didn't realize the aftermath of the operation and how difficult that was going to be, and just how restricted you are. Like, you really can't do anything. The first few weeks is pretty rough. So I did find the first 2-3 months really difficult. I think being away from home, and my mum did come out for a couple of weeks, but that was tough. But then at the same time, I wasn't really in the best headspace to see people. It's weird. You think
Yeah.
you should be around people, but then you're not really feeling yourself. So it's a really like, each day is kind of different in how you feel.
Yeah, I know. It's really hard. I think especially hearing you talk about how difficult it is after surgery because your whole body is recovering, and I think the idea of having like a visitor and needing to be up for them and give them something back is really emotionally draining even though you like need something from them. So I really relate, and it's a really difficult time. I know that this was kind of the first time for you to like slow down. You've spent all your life, chasing football, being the best that you can be. But I know that you maybe gained something from that as well during this period of your life where you were away from the field briefly. Is there anything positive from the time that you've taken away?
Honestly, it's such a good point, Sam. Like, I didn't know life without like playing season on season on season, and I thought I was gonna have like a bit of an identity crisis because I hadn't really been through any kind of injury. So what I did learn was football just doesn't stop. It doesn't stop for anyone, whether you're playing in it, you're injured, you're retired. Like, it just keeps
Mm-hmm.
going and going and going. And I do think that's quite a valuable lesson to learn at some point, because you're not going to play forever. And like, what that feels like. It's really, you don't know when it's gonna maybe come to an end or whatever, and that's really tough. And I think just to have a little idea of what that can look like is maybe not a bad thing, as much as it's tough and no one wants to be injured. Um, I feel like that was maybe a positive thing for me, especially at that time. I just come off the back of like a 50-game season,
Oh my gosh.
and I did feel a little bit of pressure and a little bit of anxiety going into that season, actually, which I don't know if that correlates obviously to getting injured. You will never know that, but I was like, God, that season took a lot. My first season, it took a lot of me, and I was like, I don't know if I can like do that again. And then obviously got injured, and that was that. So I don't know. It's funny how these things work out, but it was tough, and um, but at the same time, like, I had time for other things, and it gave me a totally new perspective, which I think was a good thing.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, and unfortunately, tearing your ACL has become really common for women's footballers. And I think that maybe because it feels like it happens so often, we forget how hard it is every single time for every single person. And we kind of talk about it like, yep, she tore her ACL, she was out for a year, and then she came back. And we're
Yeah.
about to move on to like this incredible next season and years that you have had since. But like, it is really important, I think, to acknowledge that every single time a player gets injured, especially in this way, it's like uniquely difficult and they go through this like transformative journey. And so I'm really grateful that you kind of shared that with us. I think that, I get it and a lot of our listeners get it, but we talk about it so often that I think sometimes we forget how hard it can be.
And also, like, it's so complex. Like, I didn't realize it's such a different journey for everyone. Firstly, depending on the operation you get, depending how your body recovers, depending on your rehab, just depending how your body deals with it and how it regenerates and things like that. Like, it can be so different for everyone. And there's so much mental doubt, like anxieties. Like, the amount of times I would sit there thinking, how am I ever going to like play a long pass without it hurting again? I just don't ever see that day coming. Like, just little things like that. And,
Yeah.
you just have to keep going with the process. And, obviously I've come out the other end, but it's not just as simple as it. And like you say, we talk
Yeah.
about it so freely, like ACL, that'll be 9 to 12 months and they'll be back. But there's so much that goes on in between those times for each individual player. It's really tough.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for being so open about that with us. So, you did come out the other side in late 2024. You were back on the field. You looked great, fluid, confident. You're scoring goals already. You subsequently got named to the Guardian's list of best women's footballers in the world. With your club, you set a women's record for most goals in your short career there. In less than 3 seasons, you scored 40 goals. You also received the highest honor in 2025. You were nominated for the Ballon d'Or, which is a first for Scottish women's football. What did it mean to you after everything that you had been through to bring that kind of global recognition home to Scotland?
It was like super cool. I was really surprised, if I'm honest, to be on that list. Like, I was surprised, but at the same time, it was nice for a Scottish woman to be on it. I think there should have been one on there before me. I think there could have been, Kim Lissel, Erin Cuthbert. There's a few names out there that I think could have been. So yeah, to finally have a Scot on there it was cool. It was really a really nice moment. I think, given it, of course, obviously the recovery from the ACL and being back for a full season fit. Yeah, it was a really nice way to round things off. And going to Paris, to be honest, was such a buzz. Like, it was a really cool trip that me and Josh went on. So yeah, it was really nice.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, congratulations. And you've mentioned Josh now a couple of times, your husband. And you guys got married when was it when you were still injured?
Yeah, it was the end of it. So I got married in June, 9 months after the surgery. So I was fully fit and good for the wedding.
Ah, perfect. Well, you looked beautiful. I remember seeing pictures and I was like, are you a movie star? So congratulations on that as well. Okay, a couple more questions on Scotland, then I'm going to let you go. Obviously, you're so proud to represent Scotland, Scottish football. So I do want to circle back and talk about your national team. The women's national team didn't qualify for this summer's Euros or the last World Cup, but you are fighting to qualify for 2027. Your team has so much potential. You, Claire Emsley, you have a new coach, and Scotland seems more poised than ever for a massive football movement. As a player and a leader on this team, how are you trying to push the program to that next level? Like, what are your eyes set on when it comes to 2027?
All eyes are on the 2027 World Cup. I feel like not getting to the last tournaments is obviously so disappointing, but we're kind of just looking forward now. I feel like the squad's in a really good place. Obviously, new manager, players are a bit older, a bit more experienced, playing at top clubs across Europe. And yeah, it all starts in kind of February, March, that first window, qualifying for the World Cup. And, that's all we're kind of talking about is being there. And obviously the process to get there is so important. And it started when Mel first came in June, and we've had a few camps now. So that is like a massive, massive focus for me, because playing at World Cup, well, you've won a World Cup, so you know what it's like. It's amazing. And to represent your national team on that kind of stage is where we all want to be.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you guys have such a great opportunity. I also feel like it must have been such a cool boost when your men's side qualified for 2026 for next summer for the first time since 1998. Is this true that people were celebrating so hard it caused like a minor seismic event? Is that real?
Yeah, I've heard that. I have heard that at Hampden. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Well, so I think obviously the men's World Cup is coming here to the States. So we're kind of like gearing up for it. How do you feel about your Scottish men's national team heading back to the World Cup? And are there any players or anybody in particular that you're excited to see?
I mean, last Tuesday was amazing for the country. I don't know if you saw the game and the highlights, but the goals that were scored and the reaction of just the whole nation, it was so inspiring. And we were traveling to London and I was watching it and I was just like, that needs to be us this time next year if that's us. The guys did so well to qualify, and to have a World Cup to look forward to has been so long for them. So for a small nation, like it really, it's amazing. So yeah, that's where we want to be. And yeah, I feel like our men's team, they've been doing so well. They've got a lot of good players. Obviously, Scott McTominay, John McGinn, Andy Robertson. I'm so happy for them because they deserve it. And it's going to be class, like going over that side of the world to see Scotland playing a World Cup will be so cool.
I know. Well, that's amazing. It's so cool to hear you talk about it. And I do feel like everything that we've talked about so far, Kaz, you're like, pushing boundaries in so many ways. And I feel like for kids at home in Scotland to see you pushing on the women's side, the men's team going to the World Cup, I feel like football in Scotland is like so poised to continue to grow. Like this is such an incredible opportunity for the programs there to keep improving and keep growing, and for kids and young people to be inspired. And so I guess I just want to hear throughout your whole journey from club to club through your injury and now what you're trying to do with the Scottish national team, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave for the generation coming behind you?
Oh goodness. I honestly don't know. I just feel like if anyone could take anything, I think it's just being from like a small town, a small country, that should never kind of hold you back. I feel like you can, if you really believe in yourself and you have a goal, a vision, and you're passionate and you work hard, I do believe anything's possible. But yeah, I haven't really thought of it. I don't know what kind of legacy, if I'll, that word, I don't even know. But yeah, for me, it's just working hard and really like these next few years are big, I think, especially with the national team. Like that's where my full focus is. If you've got a goal, you can achieve it. I think that's what I would kind of say to that, maybe.
That was perfect. Thank you for answering that. And I like every time I see you play on TV from afar, or whatever, I find myself always being like, oh, I played with her and she's so good. And so I really do feel like even just in this conversation, you're setting such a positive example. And I'm so glad that I had the chance to play with you. It was like such an honor.
Yeah,
and
I feel the same.
I mean, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was an honor to play with you.
Thank you, Kaz. Well, I really appreciate you doing this, and we're going to be cheering for you. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you. Maybe I'll see you in the US next summer.
Well, let me know. There's games in Boston actually where I'm from. So
cool.
You should come. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Scotland are playing there. I'll text you.
I'll see you then. Okay, great. Thank you all so much for listening. Catching up with Kaz was so awesome. And I really meant it when I said that playing with her taught me so much. I love watching her now for both club and country, and am hoping that we get to see Scotland at the World Cup in 2027. Before we let you go, we've got our linked up voicemail of the week presented by Verizon. Each week, we want to hear from you. So call and leave us a voicemail at 855-611-4050, and you could be featured on a future episode of Friendlies. Here's our caller this week.
Hey Sam, my name is Katie. I am from the Washington area, go Thorns, but I'm now living in Utah, so go Royals. My question is about Vlatko Andonovski. I know in the past there's kind of been some controversy about his coaching style and what happened with him with the national team, and so now that he has kind of resigned his position as a coach for the current, I'm wondering what the vibe is going to look like for Kansas City now that he's going to transition to just being the sporting director. So any stories that you have about Vlatko or any insights on that would be much appreciated. Big fan of the pod. Love you guys. Bye.
Hi, Katie. Thank you so much for calling in. Sounds like you are all over the place with your NWSL support, but I love to hear that you're supporting every team in every area that you're from. I hear you on this question about Vlatko. I feel like my experience with Vlatko is that he is such an amazing person and a really, really great coach. His season with Kansas City Current this year was so historic and so successful that I was really surprised to hear that he was going to step back and be in a more of a management position within the club. I did get to speak with Lola Labonta on Friendlies just the other week, which if you haven't heard yet, you should definitely go back and listen to. And I asked her about this, and it sounds to me like what Lo thinks is that Vlatko is still going to have a hand in a lot of the on-field stuff for Kansas City. I feel like whoever does become the head coach will, be somebody that Vlatko really likes and approves of and wants to work closely with. And so I feel like his influence will still be felt on Kansas City. I wonder if this change for Vlatko is, part of a bigger plan for him and how he maybe wants to have more of that, management perspective and be more of an overseer than the person who's exactly on the field doing the drills every single day. I'm very interested to see. I do wish him luck, and Kansas City is one of the more fun teams to root for in the NWSL. So I trust that they're going to sort this out just fine. But really good question and definitely something to keep an eye on. So thank you so much for calling in, Katie. That was our linked up voicemail of the week presented by Verizon. If you want to join us for this segment, the banana phone is always open. You can give me a call at 855-611-4050. Just leave a message, ask whatever you want, and you could hear yourself on the next episode of Friendlies, thanks to our friends at Verizon. Next week's guest is our last Friendlies interview of the year, and it's someone I've been wanting to have on the show since the very beginning. It's another one of my former Manchester City teammates, Kira Walsh. Me and Kira got the giggles multiple times as we reminisced about our time together in Manchester in this episode. So I think it will really help everybody find their holiday good mood next week. I'm really excited for you all to hear my conversation with Kira. Thank you all so much for listening. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel or podcast feed, and be sure to check out our newsletter, which gets delivered to your inbox every Tuesday with all the news you need to know. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you soon.